Welcome everybody. I'm Angus Berry, head of Energy and Carbon at Thames Water. Just a quick few facts about Thames Water. We are the largest water and wastewater company in the UK. Circa 14 million customers. When I did these slides, it was 4,500 employees, but actually we're going bucking the trend with our approach to delivery, and we're actually in quite a big program of insourcing, so we're actually approaching 6,000 employees now, bringing services back in to get better quality of delivery, which I think is really welcome. We've 102 water treatment works, 350 sewage treatment works, and 15 million people's wastewater service back to the environment. So actually, if you think about it, we produce multiple products. We produce quality river water, we produce water for people to drink, and actually we produce a recycled fertiliser product, and we produce energy. 2.6 million litres of drinking water, and our challenge for as Thames Water is London is growing faster than people ever imagined. If you look at the moment in the last 12 months, I think there's 76 tower blocks in London, over 20 stories being built in the last 18 months. Incredible. But all of those people need our services. Moving on to the energy challenge, I've got just over half a terawatt of power powering the water supply, and nearly 800 gigawatt hours managing wastewater. Part of our control of those costs and in control of the environmental impact is to produce renewable power. Renewable power is very different for a water business like us because you guys give us fuel. Sludge is fuel. Sewage sludge turned into anaerobic digestion or multiple processes, because we don't just use anaerobic digestion, gives us renewable energy all the time. Part of my challenge to reduce the cost and the environmental impact for our customers is how do we do that better, more efficiently, and make the economic case to do more of it. My challenges, probably very similar to a lot of other people. The biggest theme in uncertainty, I would say, is regulation. But before that, because we're always trying to keep water in supply and we mustn't pollute, is resilience. Brexit, we've all talked about, but Brexit has lots of uncertainties throughout the regulatory. It's impacting right the way through to members of my own team going back to their home nation within the European Union. That's pretty sad, but that's the reality we're dealing with. A big issue for me, obviously, with decarbonisation of the grid and getting people's understanding is grid and power quality and the reliability of the grid. We're seeing far more instances of mains failure and disturbance. And if you think about that in my context, that could be that it could cause us to pollute, or it could cause us not to get water to you, because if we've lost the grid, we may not have a pumping station to get water to you. So very, very, very important. Cost, a wholesale market. And the reality is it will be what it's be. Brexit's been priced in, but the adage to that I would say to everybody is have a plan, and be unwavering to have your plan. For us, TCR and carbon tax uncertainty is really quite a big issue. TCR has a massive impact, especially as it's not an even impact across the UK, which reflects back into our regulatory settlement. But also it impacts people who've got resilience of multiple supplies, because you end up paying a higher proportion of the cost under the TCR proposals. TCR actually could be a transfer of cost from a domestic customer's electricity bill to their water bill, because actually the savings that are promised in the electricity market reform under TCR are more than outweighed by the increased costs they're going to put on water customers. So actually, is it really achieving that end? For us, regulation and the uncertainty in regulation is really difficult, and it's making real difficulty for investment certainty. We're in the middle of the water regulatory cycle, which I can't help. It's a 5-year cycle. I wish it was a longer cycle, because a longer cycle would really help investment. Non-commodity costs, obviously the variability, actually more worried about non-commodity costs than I am about commodity costs. Commodity costs, I can have a plan, we've got measures that we can control it. It's the non-commodity TCR. MCPD and pollution, especially the specified generator regulations. The lack of regulatory certainty, the changes only this week, the Environment Agency has changed its definitions of treatment of generators if they're in the capacity market or store. So on the cost aspect, but on the resilience aspect, which is very important to me, what it's doing is limiting our ability to use the most cost-effective means of providing resilience to provide water and wastewater services. So MCPD is a big issue. The big question of legislation transition with Brexit, it's not all bad, the legislation we've got from the EU. We need to make sure that we engage with the politicians to make sure that there is some very good legislation that actually has underpinned the energy market. We've got stability in the energy market, and we don't want to lose all those trading benefits with the rest of Europe. Renewables obviously is something that's very important to me because as a water business, it's one of the levers to reduce our environmental impact. It's one of the levers to get cost certainty in our electricity supply position, but the regulatory uncertainty, what's happening with feed-in tariffs, what's happening with the renewable subsidies, and also what's happening with all the various changes that keep happening within grid connection. Storage, that really is a big question for us. Storage could be part of our solution, not just to the energy market, but onto the resilience side of things. But the treatment of storage in how we connect to the grid is still quite a challenge to make those business cases pay. So what we really want is investment certainty. Our approach to it actually is, and I would advise every business, have a strategy and have a plan. Because none of this is going to go away. Brexit is going to be resolved. The market is going to have its ups and downs. You are going to have to work out how you're going to purchase. That is going to continue. Have some core investments. For us, it's always starts with using less. We've got investments going in about how we train our people. That's a constant exercise. Energy efficiency investment. For us, it's about reducing our specific energy, kilowatt hours per unit of work done. So in our terms, kilowatt hours per megalitre. How do we increase the efficiency of providing water to our customers? That's never going to change. But equally, in the more complex market, is when we use power, what optionality have we got to help reduce the cost for our customers? That's underpinned by a whole series of investment plans that we're putting forward. I'm not sure that the business can afford to do everything that we would like to do. So my advice to every other energy manager is, if the business case is good, get the business case and then have the argument as to who funds it separately. Just because my regulated business can't afford it doesn't mean to say it's not a good business case. Do I need to go a third-party funding route? Do I need to go to a PPA route? Well, if the business case is good enough, it should stand on its own 2 feet. Keep an eye on the other bits in your plan. You're going to have to watch the situation. We're supporting the 2050 target to carbon neutrality as a nation. what's your bit going to be in that? You need to understand that. Understand what your options towards energy neutrality. Understand the impact of decarbonisation of transport. Decarbonisation of transport is one of my concerns, but one of the opportunities. If you think about most regulated utility businesses, the problem is, how do you deal with people who park at home? You don't have depots for most of your workforce. They all park at home. So how do you decarbonise their fleet? Where do they charge their van? Because they don't have a driveway. They park on the street, or they park in a car park. How do you overcome those problems? My advice as well is keep some hard targets. Keep the hard engagement with your executive, and it never stops. You've got to be constantly doing this. One of the real boons that we've been going forward as a business is using the framework of ISO 50001, because what that does, it takes away energy and carbon from my problem to every manager in the business's problem. And that is the advantage of 50001. But have your plans to use less. Don't discount renewables. Yes, the world is changing. And if you do the combination of efficiency and that mitigation, you will, in the end up paying less. So that's my pitch to the MEUC.